an email to committee members that Michelle and I were just going to wanted to begin a brief discussion about the possibility of revising the criteria for the grants approvals for next year's process. So really just start a discussion and make a decision about whether we want to move forward with those revisions.
Okay. I think I included that in the agenda. I also anticipated that.
Shut up. Really?
I think just, yeah, but we
Yeah, I think so.
Sometimes you're just so good.
So are you.
Well, there you go. Thank you.
Okay.
So I guess we need a motion to approve the agenda.
Yep, as amended.
I motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Go Yvonne. Anyone second?
I'll second.
Now we need to adopt the minutes from our meeting on May 25th, which was the meeting where we discussed and made decisions and recommendations on this year's grants. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Yep. And we need a motion to approve the minutes.
No, adopt.
Adopt the minutes of the May 25th meeting.
I will move to adopt. I'll make a motion to adopt.
Bless you, Penny. And I'll second it, because what the heck? Okie doke.
And then we got all in favor.
Now we get to a lovely item. Item number 3, which is to welcome Quinn
You know
Buchanan.
what? Sorry, I'm so sorry, Andrea. Is that we've actually got 2 sets of minutes to adopt, one from the 25th, one from the 31st.
Oh, then
Because
I
they
was
were back to
incorrect. I was incorrect then. No, I was right. The 25th was the meeting where we discussed this. We discussed the applications, and then we met again on the 31st of May to finalize those decisions. That's right. Thank you. So a motion to approve those minutes.
I so move.
And I think I'm seconding those. Thank you. And is that carried? Yep.
All in favor?
Now we get to the welcome. Item number 3, welcoming Quinn Buchanan. Welcome, Quinn.
Thank
To
you.
the Community Grants Advisory Committee. We are small but merry today.
Where's
Always.
Mary?
What?
Where's Mary?
Oh my God, there's a dad joke if I ever heard one. All right, that's awesome.
That is a dad joke.
So Quinn, tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, I wasn't expecting this. Okay. I just joined the municipality about a month and a half ago as the finance office. Well, my role is actually financial accountant, but I've taken over for Aoife in the sort of traditionally finance officer role.
Yeah.
So yeah, my background is definitely finance. Yeah, but as far as I've kind of worked with a few different organizations on Bowen, familiar with quite a few of the applicants that I've seen. Just in the ones I've sort of been seeing the ones that were just awarded for this year that are about to be, or have they been already? I'm not sure. But,
They have, so
they have been. Yeah, so I grew up on Bowen, so.
Quinn, are you the co-owner of Phoenix?
Yes, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I said that instead of are you Jared's wife? Because,
well
yeah.
played.
That too.
lovely. Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess prior to this, I've worked in finance positions in a lot of different types of organizations. So, I spent some time at the Children's Center, so I saw quite a few of I've seen the Caring Circle, all the family place grants and all that came through there. I worked with the Community Foundation for a while as well, not very long, but for a little while. So yeah, a lot of the things seem kind of familiar to me that I've seen from what I've seen at least. So yeah.
It's lovely from our perspective. I mean, I know it's a big learning curve and a new job, but it sounds like it's a lot less than it might have been for somebody new to the island, new to all things Bowen. That's lovely.
Yeah, definitely the Bowen Island side of things I already am pretty well versed in. So it's just sort of the inner workings of the municipality that I'm learning now.
Cool. You can have a gossip blog on the side. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Are we having public comments?
There is no one from the public, but she doesn't know who you guys are.
Oh, sorry. I'll start. Quinn, I'm Andrea Rayment. I used to be on the Community Foundation board for a long time ago. And I've been on the island for about 11 years. And I'm been on this committee a few years, and I was made the chair kind of by default. And I'm not very elegant with all things Robert's rules, but we're managing so far.
You did a
Yeah,
great
I'll
job.
throw it to Michelle.
Hi, Quinn. I'm Michelle. I've been on Bowen for just about 2.5 years now, so I'm sort of a newbie here. I've had a career in grants administration, though, so I bring some relevant experience to this if it's not super local Bowen experience. Andrea makes the greatest chair ever.
That's a nice thing to say. Yeah, says the woman who wouldn't know how to make a motion if her life depended on it, me. Anyway, great. Michelle, we have to get you on the Community Foundation too, just saying, right? How about you, Penny?
Hi, Quinn. I'm Penny, and I am a 17 years on Bowen Island.
Holy Hannah.
16 and a half. And I'm a fundraiser by trade. So I'm often on the other side of this process in writing grants and applying for grants and researching grants. And I work for an organization called Hollyhock, which is on another island, on Cortez Island.
Yeah, I actually did some work for Hollyhock a few years ago as well.
Oh, yeah. Neat. And over to you.
Yeah,
Yvonne.
come on, Dr. M.
Oh, yes. Quinn, hello, Quinn. I'm Dr. Yvonne McSkimming. I've been on the island, I believe it's 17 years. What's my area of expert? I'm on the committee because I can't remember. I think it was Steph. I think it was Steph that pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you." And I went, "Yeah, okay, I'll come help."
She was coerced.
She caught me one day. I think I was cooking in the school kitchen doing something, but it's rare that I ever say no to Steph. So absolutely, I would step up. So my area of expertise is in the social service sector. I do a bunch of grant writing. I'm also the director for a couple of programs, substance use programs for children and youth. One here in Canada and one in the US. So I'm a sort of a jack of all trades all over, but love to be here on Bowen.
Nice to meet you all.
That's nice.
So now we're not having, I'm just so mindful of time because I promised 45 minutes and we've only got 30 of those left.
There's no public.
So no public, not that that's a bad thing, but from a time perspective, hurrah. Number 5, updates. What's that? What's that?
You know what? I'll speak to it because Quinn just expressed that she wasn't familiar, and Councillor Kaile is not either. So the link there is just an excerpt from the June 28th regular council meeting, and that's just to indicate to you that the your recommendation to council in the fund allocation was accepted and allocated as you recommended. It doesn't always happen that way. So I always kind of like it when it does.
News.
Yeah. So thank you. And then the second motion regarding the Caring Circle and Birch.
Yeah.
I think there had been discussion at the meeting about taking those funds out of a different, perhaps a strategic initiatives fund. And that was not really considered. They instead referred your recommendation back to staff to look at rejigging the multi-year core funding.
So if staff need anything more from us, they'll let us know. Yeah.
We
Is that
currently
right?
don't have staff.
I dig your candor, baby, but
We don't have a CFO right now. The CFO is gone.
Oh, I
And
thought you had a new CFO.
his last day was on Friday.
Okay, that is way too creepy. Okay,
So
sorry.
we have a new CAO.
Oh.
And then, so Quinn's kind of like, you know what, she's doing a great job right now handling it on her own. And then we're doing the posting is closed and interviews are taking place, so.
So
Zoom.
the
I'm
only
just
thing
saying
I-
that
the
they're
only
probably
thing-
not gonna put the multi-year funding at the very, very top of their list.
Right.
So it might be.
You reckon? Okay.
But your recommendation has been sent back to staff and it's in the council tracking, so we'll
So
just
we don't
sort of
need to
check.
follow it, actively follow it. We'll hear back at some point.
We'll hear back at some point, yeah,
Okay.
we can do a little nudge, can't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
When we've let them settle in, yeah. That's that update.
So thanks, Steph. And now we're into the business of the guts of our meeting, which really begins with the plan for finding new ways to support applicants in the 2022 process. And I'm hoping everyone's had a chance to look at the options that Michelle and I sent around. And
Shall we do a quick share screen on that just to make sure we're all
yes, please.
okay?
I have I'm ready to share on the other item, but sorry, I didn't have
Oh,
this up.
That's okay. Or do you want to do it? Or
no.
you're not ready?
No.
Okay, I'll do it.
So
Okay.
just for the benefit of those who may be listening to the recording after the fact, Michelle and I met last week briefly just to kind of get the ball rolling in terms of what kinds of support that we might offer to applicants. Really reflecting back on our observations as a committee over the last couple of years, where we felt that some applicants might be slightly hindered and not 100% understanding the process, or where we would have really benefited from a little bit of extra information here or there, or where we wish that we could have offered the feedback we were offering in advance in a way. So I'm probably not putting that very well, but kudos to Michelle for really pushing this forward. And what we talked about is basically three options, which I will just touch on. And then I'm very keen to hear from Yvonne and Penny in particular about their thoughts on this. So the original idea is the most traditional one. Option one is really providing a workshop. So come along on Zoom, so it's easy for people. Come along, we'll do a 45-minute session that really walks you through what's expected, some of the common pitfalls, what we think is great and not so great, and give applicants time to ask questions. And we thought maybe doing that near the beginning of the application process would be good. We'd record it so that people like me, who tend to fill in application forms nearer to the deadline, would still be able to have the benefit of that detail when they are turning their minds to the application. So that's option one. Option two is to say, well, we'll do that, but we will also create an opportunity for applicants to connect with a member of the committee. Traditionally, they can ask staff questions, but to book a call with a committee member to ask specific questions that might help them draft their application. So we don't want anyone getting stuck or struggling, or when a phone call would really help them through that process. The idea there too is that somebody could do that 2 days before the application's due. It's not a fancy process. It's a helpline in essence. And then the third option we talked about that it would involve more involvement by our committee. And the question is whether it takes it beyond the information to applicants level and takes it to more of a direct feedback level. So creating a system whereby applicants put their draft in. Maybe they've attended the webinar, maybe they've asked their questions, now they put their draft application in. And we set up a system whereby the committee reviews that application, thinks about any questions, concerns, gaps they see. It's our moment to ask questions. And then one or maybe two committee members would actually meet with the applicant. And that's a chance to just deal with any glitches or issues that we see coming up. And it would involve some feedback from some preliminary feedback from the committee that would give the applicant a chance to add, revise, polish a little bit so that they know that they're putting their best foot forward. And the idea of that, it would involve adjusting the process. It would mean applications coming in 2 weeks earlier. It would mean committee members agreeing to review applications twice. Although, you know, as Michelle and I discussed, I think it's really reviewing them kind of intensively once and then maybe a little less intensively the second time. All with an eye to best foot forward and us feeling like we've done what we can to provide reasonable guidance. So those are the options. I know we're very open to other options, but also input.
Input in what sense? Which of the three that you would prefer?
If you've got any particular thoughts on the three, or if you've got any thoughts on the distinction between providing more information, clearer, better information, and actual substantive feedback during the process. I think those are two really different things we're proposing.
Yeah. I mean, if this was a bigger type of grant, I mean, I just finished one with the federal government. So those are big grants, and you know, you get this whole guideline and outline and all kinds of info, and then you have to go to a webinar, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I would get all that because people are being paid to do that. But this is a smaller grant. So I've talked about this years ago, and I said, listen, they just need a better outline of what it is they need to send in, and the clearer that we can be around what we're asking for and what that needs to represent. Because the process itself isn't overly daunting. It's not like they're being asked copious amounts of questions. I think if there's I would shoot for me option one with maybe a lean towards option two, because then there's an opportunity for them to ask some questions in the Zoom. But if for number three, if we're having to go back and forth, I just look at that from a time factor, and I'm like, I just don't know if I have that kind of time to go back and forth as I'm trying to, then I'm crafting their grant for them. I don't have the information here. I don't have this. I don't have that. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Because then that shows me something in what we're delivering to them is not clear in terms of the instructions that we're providing. That's me.
Others might as well. I guess my only comment to that, Yvonne, I agree. I don't think we are crafting. We are offering insights that they can act on or not. Honestly, I don't think we are. But I take your point. There's a lot more time and effort. The only thing I would say is I certainly envisage that the webinar, the phone call is truly optional. This is not saying there's more stuff you have to do. It's really meant to build capacity. I mean, whether you're applying for $2,000 for your neighborhood project or $200,000, I would say the person applying for a $2,000 neighborhood project may have less experience. They're not professional grant writers. They're not always, some people are not clear on how to do it. So part of this is helping people, however small it is, helping people do it better. That's my thought.
Yeah, I'm not
I don't want to make
suggesting
people do more hoops, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that it's more hoops for us. I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't look to do that, because I was a proponent for that for years ago. I'm just suggesting it's not something, I don't want an option that's going to require more of my time for me. Right? So yes, the guidelines should be more clearer. Yes, an initial webinar so you can ask questions and things like that. But getting into bigger pieces where it requires more time, that's where I kind of go, I don't have the time for that.
So it does raise the question, if we were to consider option three, we would need to consider how are we going to, if we do decide to do it, how are we going to staff it? We'll have to look for volunteers from the committee to do that work. We wouldn't necessarily assume everyone's going to jump in and do that. Yeah. How about you, Penny?
I'm kind of with Yvonne on this one. I think that number one is a no-brainer. I think we've been talking about it for a couple of years of having like a workshop, but I like the idea of a live webinar. If people want to ask questions, they can attend the live, but the webinar is available on demand as well. I think that's a great idea. And I think tied into really clear criteria and getting a piece in there around what the financial, the financial criteria is to set expectations so we're not getting $25,000 requests. The other two are nice to have, but I'm not sure they're need to have. To have the question, I think having staff available. And again, I know where I'm laughing. Yvonne I just did a federal grant as well. And in that case is really helpful because there's a lot of really specific information.
Yeah, well, those big ticket ones are massive, right? So you was it a COVID one?
No, and
Okay.
to be honest, it wasn't even a big ticket one. It was for $10,000. Actually, it wasn't. Yeah, it was federal. And it was for $10,000 and it was just a whole bunch of work and I don't think I'd ever apply for it again. But
those are different creatures, of course, from ours by a long shot. Yeah.
I also feel as a grant writer, when I see that there is an opportunity to speak to someone, I feel the obligation to speak to someone to will that benefit my grant if I speak to someone on the committee. That would be the assumption I would make, and I would feel obligated to do that, to put my best grant foot forward.
It's a great point, Penny, and it makes me think that if that option were to be considered, it would need to be phrased carefully, almost like a throwaway on the application. If you feel stuck anywhere, don't give up. You can, call. You can talk to a staff member, and if you need to talk to a committee member, don't be, don't get stuck somewhere. Yeah. As opposed to, if you would like to schedule a helpful consultation, that sounds like it really is a essential part of it, then yeah.
I think we already have staff available, don't we, as a resource?
I know that we advertise it. I think the system, if I'm right, Steph, is that I know Shale used to review applications as they came in, and if there was something she noticed that was missing, glaringly missing, she would tell people. Is that right, Steph?
Yeah, so glaringly missing, she would tell people. Also, when the committee members received the application packages, they would be emailing Shale with questions, and she would then send those questions to the applicant and then convey that information back to the committee members.
And I think having staff available is great because they're not voting. They're not a voting person.
So maybe just make it clearer. You can call if you're stuck. Michelle, I've got a couple of other thoughts, but I wanted to come to you. What do you have to say based on what you've heard so far?
I hear what's been said. I think that I hadn't thought of Penny's point that offering something can make it feel obligatory. Like if you're in your right senses, you're going to take us up on this, and that's not really what we mean to do. I hear what Yvonne is saying, that this would just add a whole other level of review, which was really time consuming. And one of the things that makes this committee manageable to some extent is that it doesn't tend to be super time consuming much of the year. And so we don't necessarily want to burden people by making it more. So I wonder if we might want to consider this sort of an iterative experiment where we look at starting with our webinar concept and rolling that out for next year and seeing if we feel like it makes a difference. And if at the end of next year, we're like, these people just didn't get it, maybe we need to add a different layer in support or intervention after that, just kind of taking it one step at a time.
Yeah, for sure.
The other piece for me that I don't know that we've ever talked, I think we've cycled around a little bit, but it's relative to people understanding and not understanding, is that we get the same people year in and year out. I know it's not necessarily on the agenda for this conversation, but somewhere along the way, it should be, because that also impacts when new people are coming through, to be able to figure out what we can or can't do, because a lot of the even the ones that sort of come to us all the time there's oftentimes we're having to cycle back to go, did somebody get this? Did somebody get that? Did they send this in? But there's almost an automatic expectation that they're going to get that money. So it really makes me uncomfortable when I see new guys come in and I'm like, oh my God, can we stretch this? And if they're missing little pieces, what does that necessarily mean? So for me, there's two things going on at the same time.
Yvonne, are you talking about the caring circles and
all those guys every year,
which we're working hard to address sort of the more core annual requests, and if staff agrees to, or if we can get that support from council, then we'd be focusing on projects more. So even if Bowen Children's Center is applying every year, they're applying for individual projects, not for core funding for the family place.
Gotcha.
Right?
That'd be great.
The piece it's funny, but what I thought you were driving at for a second, Yvonne, was that there are certain organizations, even in the small grant category, that do apply often, like Light Up Bowen, we tend to see every year, and that's totally fine. But I guess it's not that I'm hanging on to option 3 like a dog with a bone by any stretch, but I feel like we're wanting to support, we're wanting to offer guidance to help offer better applications. And at the moment, where the guidance is happening is at the end of the granting process. And so I'm just wondering, isn't it more effective to try and back it up to the beginning of the granting process? So we might give feedback in a few lines in a letter saying you did or didn't get your grant, with some feedback about what to improve for next year. I'm not convinced that's the most effective way to support that grant applicant. And I'm not talking about, like, in this way, I guess I'm not talking as a grants administrator. I'm talking as a community member wanting to support those community organizations. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. But for me, so much of this isn't about that. If we're saying no to somebody, it's not so much, my experience is that it hasn't been necessarily connected that the grant wasn't complete. It's just that there's so many people asking for money. We only have so much money, and there's more and more people asking for money. So what we're trying to do is figure out, how do we split? This year was we had $47,000 and there was 120 requested or something, like an astronomical amount. Every year it's like that. So I look at it differently, because for me, I can understand that, yes, we could certainly provide some greater detail on the front end for people to make sure that there's some clarity. And yes, they could call in if they weren't. That's terrific. But there's always going to be that excessive need that outmatches what we actually have. So what we end up doing is trying to figure out, sort of who's more critical, who has the higher sense of priority. That isn't necessarily specific to how they've written the grant. That's really more specific to, am I helping the firefighter and paramedics and ambulance people because they save lives? Or am I helping the horse person that is looking to put a ring up around? Like, they're both important, but of course our focus is going to be who's keeping, like the caring circles is a good example, right? Like that is critical to the island. So we end up focusing our attention on that. It's not really, as much as we're marking the grants, it's not really all about that the grants are ill properly provided or ill properly written. It's just the volume.
Yeah, and I hasten to say, I don't think anyone's suggesting they're improperly written, but there have been, I'd say there's been a handful every year I've been here where we've said, look, we wish we knew this, or we wish we knew that, or if we can only give them, if we can only give 2,000 instead of 6,000, we wish we kind of understood how we could do that. So it's just, I think there are instances where we would have benefited from some better information. So getting to ask those questions.
I think it's getting better though. I mean, there wasn't one grant that I read this time through that I was left asking a ton of questions.
I had questions to ask about Light Up Bowen. I had questions to ask about the BowFest application. I can't remember them all, but there were ones where we talked about it would be really, we didn't understand, well, is it going to, what if it's not remote, and what's the money for, and are they selling tickets? And, you know, it's, I think, anyway, I've
just noticed an improvement over year after year. Like it's not getting worse. It's getting, for me, I'm seeing that we are getting more and more. That doesn't mean that everything's tickety-boo and perfect, but they have been getting better year after year.
Maybe to follow up on Michelle's point, maybe an option would be to have the webinar as we've talked about, and maybe we could even think about a small, like a survey or a quick call to applicants to say what would be helpful to you. Or next year we could get some feedback from them about the process afterwards. I don't know. Because we're wondering what's helpful, but we're not 100% sure, really. I'm no survey junkie, trust me, I'm not in, but you know, we don't really know.
That was one of the first things that occurred to me when I read through, and I really appreciate the work you guys did to put these through, but I was wondering just that, what are the applicants?
What do they need? What are they saying?
I think that's an interesting point. That hadn't occurred to me before, and that actually should always be the starting point, right? If you're reaching out to do something for somebody, to find out what it is that they might find helpful. So, would it make sense to queue up a quick survey of everybody who applied this year and just say, can you give us a little bit of feedback on the process? What would have helped you feel supported in this application, or more prepared in this application?
Did you like the feedback you got? Did you get enough feedback? Do you understand the reasons you did or didn't, you know, that stuff? I don't know.
And then we could say, and I mean, I think more than whether or not they like their feedback, I think what we need to know, like what would help you feel in a strong position to apply for future awards? Would a webinar help? Would one-on-one consultation help? Would you like phone calls? And just ask some of these things that we're outlining and see how they react to those options.
A little Survey Monkey could do that. Absolutely. And then you could just tie it in. You could tie it in every year. If you're applying for this, then the expectation is, you know, because listen, I've got to do that so many times with the grants that I'm having to write. Every time I write one, there's always a little section at the end that I don't really have a choice, that I have to provide feedback, of which annoys me. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I get it. You need to hear what worked, what didn't work, what could be better for next time through. And it's attached to the fact that if you're applying for this, right, if you're accepting it, then you need to be able to give some feedback, which is good.
I kind of like it in that position too, so that it's not linked to whether someone receives a grant or not. Actually linked into the application process, then it's less biased, perhaps.
I think too, though, finding out what applicants would find helpful is really important. But I also think there is space for us to say, what do we need to make good decisions? And I know I feel pretty consistently, every year I feel frustrated that I can't ask a bunch of questions at the table and get input, right? So I feel like I'm interested in finding a way to be able to clarify things in the application. And I feel that because these are small community grants, I'm not prepared to say well, too bad, so sad. If it's not in the application, too bad, can't consider it, right? I don't, that's not an ethos I'm that interested in. So I'm trying to
I don't think anybody's done that, Andrea. I don't recall a time that anybody has said, too bad, so sad, it's not in the application. Well,
for example, in the BOFEST application, we weren't in the process doesn't allow us to clarify the things that we were talking about, right? So if it was vague or unclear, it was just vague or unclear. And that was all there was to it.
So I wonder, Andrea, how you feel about what Steph and you were chatting about a minute ago when Shale was helping in this process, and the committee would read things and then send questions to Shale, who would convey them out. And what it would mean is that we would have to read things like not in the moment of the meeting, but in time enough in advance to convey some questions and have that opportunity to send questions out and get them back in again. So Steph, for example, could play a role like that. Steph is raising her fingers.
I totally like that idea.
As you were speaking, I just pulled up this email from Aoife that had laid out the deadlines, or not the deadlines, the timeline of this year, 2021. So it was open applications, close applications, Aoife emails, applications, packages, deadline for further information requests from CGAC members, which ideally would be when
Which
you
I
ask
clearly
all your
missed.
questions.
Yeah.
But I feel like you guys are volunteers. It's no one's, you're not going to do it, right? You're
I'll
not going
do
to
it.
read it. Well, okay. What I was about to suggest was that,
Or I can't complain about it.
yeah,
right.
The trouble is, Andrea,
had
like
two-
if you set that up, then the next person, like you're not going to be here forever. So it's like what we decide is being set up for whatever group's coming, you know, we there'll be new people coming on board. So I'm mindful of what it is that I'm saying yes to for other volunteers that'll be coming in play.
What
It
I'm
sounds like
hearing
there
though
is a
Can I just
system.
finish the thought that,
Yeah.
so I know I'm not on the committee. I just wanted to so we had 2 meetings this year and they were short together. So if you were to spread it out where that May 12th deadline for further information requests from CGAC members, you guys would actually meet and talk about the applications and get all those questions. And then the next meeting, there'd be some time to answer those questions. The next meeting you'd adjudicate.
Which makes sense, because then it's not about meeting with, we're not meeting with the applicants, but we are coming together to figure out what we need to know and giving the applicants a chance to fill us in.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I like that option. It's a variation on what exists already in the system, but we haven't been taking advantage of. So we're not necessarily creating something new. We're just saying we're going to change our timeline so that rather than wrestle with these questions individually and send them to formerly Aoife or formerly Shale to try to get answers for us, we'll talk about them amongst ourselves, decide what we need to know, send out a few messages, and then with that information, make our final decisions at the second meeting, which we would be having anyway.
That's right. And it's efficient because we don't have to sit around together wondering. We can just ask.
So Steph, does that make sense to you in terms of how we would plan next year's process?
That makes sense to me. Yeah. And then, so then you're looking at a webinar. Like, are you looking at the webinar sort of the day the application's open?
How long are they open?
So what I have is April 12th, but it would be slightly different next year, I think, but April 12th open, April 30th close.
So we could do it. I know Easter is that weekend. I think it's the 19th.
I don't know if this is always the exact dates, but I'm
17th.
just-
But, you know, I would say, yeah, I agree with Michelle. The following week, if it opened on a Monday, maybe do it the following Wednesday or Thursday. The webinar could be 30 minutes. Doesn't have to be 45. It can be really short, especially if we have lots of, you know, if we have good materials.
When you say the following Wednesday or Thursday, you mean 2 or 3 days later or 10
Just days later.
10 days later.
Okay.
And then that first time that the committee meets, there's an agenda item, which is, you know, questions to be put to applicants. You know,
Right.
so we remember that we've got to do that. Oops.
Okay.
Do you want to take a stab at that recommendation, Steph, given that you've just crafted it?
Sure.
Or do you want?
You feel ready? So is that kind of a version of, so it's option 1?
I think, yes.
Yeah, I think it's just we're proceeding with option 1. But we're also discussing changing the timeline of the meetings themselves a little bit. So we have a little bit more of a break between them. They're not just days apart, but enough time to collect information and report back.
Plus the survey. So if you look at that language, so take the following steps to support applicants for 2022. One would be conduct a short survey in the summer of this summer, in the summer of 2021 of 2021 applicants.
Sorry, did you say check? Sorry.
I think that we may have, I think we should do the survey after. or with
After
the-
next year?
With the application process, with the application. Mainly because if we receive it this summer, then we're already into it. Will we actually change what we're recommending here based on that?
I worry about putting it in the application as nobody's going to be critical or ask, be difficult in their application. Well, they're not. Yeah, right. Ann Silberman's not going to say, you guys didn't support us enough in the application process, right? She's gonna say this is
You guys are great.
I would.
And then
So
maybe
good
with the-
looking.
Yeah.
Do we want to say, I hear what Penny's saying. I wonder if we want to just have a place on the application that's like a checkbox or something that says with your signature, you are agreeing to complete a post-application survey in the month after the final decisions are made.
Yeah. So do the survey next after the 2022 process.
Right. And so that means that people won't feel like whatever their feedback is going to affect their
Yes.
decision. The decisions will be made, but they're agreeing in advance that they will fill out the stupid FERT survey as part of the process.
Ah,
So yeah, so number one will be to plan a webinar in accordance with option one. And two would be to whatever brilliant thing Michelle just said about adjusting the process, the application consideration process, to give the committee time to develop questions of applicants at its first meeting and receive responses before the second meeting. And then the third would be conduct a post process survey of all applicants.
okay, I'm not sure I got that, but I'm gonna do a share screen so we can just fill in a couple of gaps.
You guys are the wordsmiths. I'll leave it to you.
Okay, can you see it?
Yep.
So I'll clean it up after, but proceed with option one.
In the opening, support grant applicants in the 2022 process, because we're trialing.
Cycle?
Yeah.
I said that you said 45, 20, 30, 45, 30?
Let's say 30 to 45. So we have a range and we can see how we're not locked into something.
I would make that first dot with the recording. 30 to 45 minute live webinar during the first 2 weeks of the application process.
Okay.
Live webinar question and answer, Q&A? Or is that
Including
the
question and answer?
assumption?
Live webinar with Q&A, yeah.
And a show and a dance afterwards.
Yeah. Yvonne, you're a beautiful singer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Where is everybody? Are you on the second bullet?
Yeah.
Yeah. In my spirit of wordsmithing, I would probably say adjust the application review timeline.
Yes.
What is going on here? Just the application review timeline accordingly. Or as follows.
No, I think it's just adjust the timeline.
To allow.
Yeah, to allow the committee, to allow time between,
Allow the I would have said allow committee members time to compile questions in the first review.
During the first review. Is that right?
First meeting.
how about adjust the timeline so that questions compiled by the committee at their first meeting can be answered by applicants before the second meeting?
Perfect.
Is it compiled? Can be answered in time for?
Yeah,
In time for the,
for the, yeah.
Yep, perfect.
second review and recommendate,
When recommendations are made, are developed. Or something, I don't know. Say for the third bullet, conduct a survey of all applicants. Of all 2022 applicants, once the grant cycle is complete, and we need to say what the survey is about.
To help guide process for future years.
Mm.
really?
Done.
And that's gonna be, after, yeah, okay, good. Great. Woo.
I think we resolves with an S, don't we? The committee
No,
resolves.
because it's subjunctive, so it's gonna appear as it was moved and seconded that the committee resolve.
Okay.
Sorry, but I know it seems weird, but I can talk offline. This comes up a lot.
So we need to make a motion, don't we? I can feel it. Is this right?
Feel it
Okay.
coming on.
So can I move
Yes.
that we adopt the following recommendation? Do we need to read it, Steph?
Sure.
That the Community Grants Advisory Committee resolved to take the following steps to support community grant applicants in the 2022 cycle. Proceed with option number 1 of the proposed support options, 30 to 45-minute live webinar with Q&A during the first 2 weeks of the application process with a recording made available. Adjust the application review timeline so that questions compiled by committee at the first review meeting can be answered in time for the second review meeting, wherein recommendations are developed. And conduct a survey of all 2022 applicants once the grant cycle is complete to help guide our process or the process for future years. Forgive me. Somebody,
The mover.
I move.
I'll second.
great.
All
And
in favor?
all in favor.
Yes.
Okay, well done. we've gone past our allotted time and we haven't come to our new business of reviewing criteria. I wonder,
We wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't said anything. Keep going.
Yeah.
Somebody's
Okay.
screaming you.
Keep going.
well, can I share my screen, Steph, or I can't?
Yes,
Can I?
you may. Please do.
Well, maybe Michelle, you could speak to it a little bit. What I've done is oh, you can't see that. Can you?
If you make it a
Yes.
little bigger.
Screen sharing. I don't know how. You mean like just the
Sharing.
text?
Go to view. Or you can, yeah,
Like that?
sure.
Sorry, I'm
Right.
struggling to, okay. So all I did was, it's not very pretty. I've taken our criteria, I just cut and pasted into a Word document to highlight the areas that Michelle and I got talking about, and which are really about making it clear that a project needs to demonstrate feasibility. And I'll let you speak to it, Michelle, but all I've done is highlight really 4 criteria that kind of bundle together to really say, tell us it's going to succeed. Tell us why you think it's going to succeed. Anyway.
Yeah, so this came up because I was grumbling about the evaluation criteria, and my sense that looking at them, I couldn't see anywhere obvious in which we as a committee could speak to the question of, is this project feasible? We're supposed to speak to how embedded the organization is in the community and how many volunteers it has, and do they have fiscal governance that's responsible. But as a reviewer, I always wanted to say, that's all good, but I don't think it's ever going to get off the ground, or it is. But I wanted to be able to speak very clearly to feasibility. And as we were talking about this the other day, it became clear that those components of what would make a project feasible are sort of woven throughout the existing criteria, but they're just not stamped like number 6, is it feasible? So we wanted to talk a little bit about that, and if other people shared that sense that having the ability to speak about feasibility as a review criterion would facilitate our process at all.
And I would suggest arguably make it easier for applicants by just saying, like, show us that it's feasible, like financially, that you've got people on board. We could include these components as examples of things that would help to demonstrate feasibility.
Awesome sauce.
I guess the question is, are you open to revisiting the criteria? Back to your original comment, Yvonne, about helping people know what we want.
Yeah, I'm open to doing that. I'm in with the gravy train if everybody else is.
Penny?
Yes. Yeah, and my only hesitation with the yes is, one, is it really our mandate to review the criteria?
It is.
Okay.
It was, this committee was formed to create the policy originally, and they other iterations of this committee have
changed.
I think this is Joyce and Jane's work, isn't it?
Yeah, and they also reviewed it and amended it over time with experience.
Great. So my other question is, it still doesn't address the criteria and I know we talked about it and I can't remember, but as far as like realistically, what are the grant sizes? I know we didn't want to totally limit ourselves from different grants, like to really small grants, but I'm just, again, sensitive to the fact that we had one application for 25 and another, I think, for 15.
Yeah, that would have been everything gone right there.
So I wonder if we want to handle that not necessarily with the grant criteria, but with a sort of a statement from the beginning, like priority will be given to, like this year we have a priority will be given to projects that focus on COVID-19 response. Maybe we had talked about putting in language priority would be given to organizations that were not requesting core funding, but we're actually going to implement a project of some sort or another. We talked about that briefly at one of our meetings. The priority might be given to awards in the, $2,000 to $7,000 range. And there are ways that we could do that that aren't necessarily specifically having to do with the weighting criteria.
We could also say, the committee often is in the position of just has more valid requests than there is money. And so it might be, you might consider, if we're only able to give some money, you might break out your grant request into components in case there's less money than requested. Help us do that kind of.
I can't see it, but yes, I think that's great. The other question that came to mind is people continuing to apply year after year versus new. I thought there was a criteria somewhere that encourages new projects and not repeat.
Did I read somewhere I
can't see
the recommendation that it was being requested that some of the sort of ongoing organizations who were awarded the funds be sort of, I read something about that it would be included in the budget outside of this.
Yeah, because it's for operational funding year after year. Yeah.
So
staffing and stuff, which is like.
Yeah, sorry. So the idea there being that it would sort of free up some of the funds for some of the new applicants. Is that? Yeah.
But I guess I'm wondering, Penny, what you're really driving at, if I'm right, is like Light Up Bowen applies every year. Are we limiting them from applying every year? Or are we saying, does that go to the self-sustainability point? Like at some point your project needs to end, or I don't like, is it something like that?
Yeah, I think it is the sustainability piece that's the piece I was looking at. And if Light Up Bowen was to say this year we need to get a new boat for Santa, and we need this much money for the boat, but we figure we will pay for it with hot chocolate sales or something. I know that none of those apply, but in future years. So that would address it. It's a new project, it's a new element, and it has an eye to sustainability in the future.
Well, I guess an applicant that comes back year over year to say, okay, this year we want this and this year we want that, or we need that, it starts to feel almost like core funding, right?
But there needs to be a piece within that. I mean, I'm all about this. I think there needs to be a piece where you are able to work your way towards maybe
something.
Not complete self-sustainability, but the Light Up Bowen could really generate, because people would give $10 for just be able to come down and have the hot chocolate. They could be raising some of their own money for these elements that they they're always going to need lights, and they're always going to need replacements, and always. So if there's no component put in there that they need to do some of that work around how they're going to do that, and encourage the community to buy into that, so the community takes ownership within the process itself, that they deem that this is a big ticket item for them and they want it and they need it, then this is the cycle we're going to be stuck in. So,
but the criteria as it stands, I think, takes care of that, would allow us to say, that we're not seeing a demonstration of other options being used to raise the money or any move towards completion or self. I think we can deal with that now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's different from limiting the Children's Center from coming back year on year with individual projects that they want to work on. And it seems to me that there's no limit to that.
Yeah, see, this is the dilemma that we get.
They're different projects.
Yeah, this is what we're going to get. It's going to be the same people year in and year out, of which then they start to expect it. Right. And then if it can get, I'm not sure how to, I don't know. In my head, I just haven't had enough time to really think about it, because all of these organizations are needy and they're very deserving in that sense. But I think there should be something if you've applied for whatever amount of money, like after 5 years, you can only apply for this much. After so many years, it's that much. Like, I don't know any other way.
That's going to work.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know any other way, because people are always going to find, well, it's this project or that project. So they're still going to be asking for whatever amount they need to be able to have. And we're going to be still stuck in this place.
And see, I don't mind if people ask for new projects,
No,
adding
not at all.
value to the community. So
But that doesn't show where, you know, for me, that just doesn't show where the sustainability is. And then it doesn't really necessarily allow other newbies to come in and do some things.
But you can have a cool new idea every year, as opposed to the same idea being funded year after year after year. Those are really different things, I think, is what Penny and I are saying.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm just looking at that can also be something that year after year after year, but then you're not allowing other people that opportunity. It's, for me, it's just the piece of people just get stuck in this. If I send it in, I know I'm going to get money. And it's
I don't think anybody would think, I mean,
know.
I don't, in my experience with this committee, to use the Children's Center as an example, there have been projects that have been approved and there have been projects that weren't approved. And there were projects that got a little bit and projects that got a lot. They get assessed on their individual merits, quite separate from core funding for Family Places Director. But the actual community projects get assessed on their merits each year. I don't think anyone feels like we have to give it to them or they will fold.
I'm not saying us. I hear it in the community when folks, some of these long-term guys, part of their attitude is that they know that they're going to get, you know, they're going to get money, they're going to get something. And I'm like, well, yeah, you might, but you may not. Like, this year's theme is, it has to be COVID directed, right? So, you know, it kind of depends on if you fit that mandate. It's just because they get the money and then over so many years, it's an expectation that they will get it. It's not
That's
our expectation.
operational, right? That's what, anyway, I'm not
I
sure
think that
where this is going,
that falls on us to make better decisions.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
It's not a problem with the guidelines. It's the problem with the committee that has year after year said, okay, well, I guess we'll just keep funding them because they need core funding. And at some point it's up to, we actually have the power to say, you know what, we're not going to do that this year. And we've got the criteria to back us and we just haven't taken that step.
And we are now taking that step. Yeah.
We just have to be willing to be the ones who take that responsibility of making that recommendation to council.
I think what I'm reacting to, Yvonne, is I would hate for us to be limiting innovative, great ideas that pop up. Doesn't matter where they come from. It matters.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm not suggesting that, Andrea.
Yeah, no, I know you're not, but that's what I think that's what I'm wondering about. Oh goodness, what if somebody had like a 6th grade idea in a row? Are we going to say, no, you can't come back to the table? No.
But I'm also really clear that there are very few of these projects in any shape or form that demonstrate some sort of outside. I mean, they're really great with coming up with ideas for programming, but where everybody seems to fall short is how do we generate the money to make this be possible, except for going for grants, as opposed to maybe looking at, like, wouldn't it be great if 3 or 4 of these charities got together and created a social enterprise? I'm just saying, right? You know, it's about trying to think of that from a, can we go broader than just this small little circle? That's all.
I'm not sure how to wrap that up or what we're.
That's what it was. Just an end thought.
One of the on that note, one of the interesting things that Cortez did or does in their criteria is they encourage people or community groups to work together, and so they weight and give priority to collaboration within community groups.
Which is already, it's in our criteria a little bit now, but we could be explicit about that if we really want to. Okay, so I'm not sure whether, am I hearing that we are interested in revisiting the criteria before next April?
I feel like I've heard general support for that. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of timing, you know, I'm easy. You sneeze.
Bless you, bless you.
Yeah, you're quick on the mute there, Andrea.
Yeah, it was good.
Now you need to unmute.
Yeah, in terms of timing, of course, I want to have summer and relax now, but at the same time, the conversation's open. I don't know, what do you guys think would be a reasonable time to bring the committee together to look at some options?
I would like to do so while it's fresh, while the process is fresh. So in a month, but we could do it beginning of September too, if we wanted to push it through the end of summer.
Just as a clarification, are you thinking that we would get together and sort of hash out some new language? Or are you thinking that maybe some combination might draft something and then people would react to that? Or did you have thoughts about specifically the next steps?
I didn't, of course, me being me, I'm a total weird control freak and I just want to go away and play and come up with a new draft for everyone to rip apart. I know that's not productive. I live in a world of lawyers. They love to be given something to rip apart. But yeah, I guess we could, one option would be to come together to decide what needs to be redrafted. And the other option would be for a group, one or two of us to go away and make something for everyone to consider. I don't know.
I guess I feel like that would be more time effective. I think that we
Yeah.
could spend a lot of time sort of spinning our wheels, sort of trying to come up with a sense of where we collectively want to go. But if we have something to react to, that can focus the feedback a little bit more specifically.
Yeah, I really appreciated the work that you guys did going into this one. So that was, you're right, that was effective.
What if we did this? If I hate to make work, but would be interesting, I'm happy to do it. Michelle may be happy to do it, it would be helpful just if say Yvonne or Penny, you just agreed to look at the criteria for 15 minutes. Just take a deep look for a sec and offer any immediate thoughts. What strikes you as, from all the reviews we've done, what's not working there, or what could be revisited? There's the 3 principles at the top, and then there's the actual 7 criteria. Would that be reasonable?
Sure, send it. Do we have a copy of that? Do I have to go back? Oh, it stopped.
I saw them dashing around looking for a charger. I think Steph may have lost her power.
That is excellent. Excellento. Do we have a copy of that? That was sent to me eons ago, right?
I think Steph's last email to us attached it. It is in the it's on the website under our committee. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
And likewise, I can
just rough as guts thoughts.
Yep. And then what do we do with that? Where do we take that for the next meeting and then discuss those rough as guts thoughts? Or do you want?
No, just send it and then we'll make a draft to discuss. That's the efficient thing, right?
Okay. Send it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Michelle, do you want to draft it? You tell me. What's your thing?
I'm happy to. I react well to something that's been drafted. I'm happy.
Oh, see, I love to be the creator and then have people rip, and then you can rip. I don't care.
Please do it. Please create.
Create is my best thing. Yeah, not finish. So, okay. So if you guys could do that.
When would you like that by?
Well, is it reasonable to meet in August or should it be September? I mean, August is going to be hard.
It couldn't be. I'm away from the 6th to the 16th. So it'd have to be early August or late August. I am around after the 16th because I think the Legion's doing food and beer for both us. So I'll be there for that.
What are your movements, Penny?
I am gone from the 16th to the 28th.
Yeah, and then I think it's September. I really do. But the problem with me is as soon as I put down the ball, I've moved on in my mind.
Yeah.
What if we did it this month?
That's better for me, frankly. I think I'm going to be pretty busy in September.
Can you guys send me your thoughts this week?
This week?
If I don't do it this week, I won't do it.
Yeah, do it by Friday.
I'm sorry. No, I can't. My birthday is Thursday. I'm not going to have it done for you by Friday. And I'm slammed with work. I might be able to have it for you next week, but not this week.
Okay, so why don't What works, Yvonne, in terms of a date? I'm
Well,
just looking-
everybody else can send theirs to you this week, but you'll get mine sometime next week.
Okay, so then that just helps decide when we might meet. So can you guys meet the week of the 26th?
Of what, July?
Yeah,
I can do my best. I've got a big fundraiser at the end of that week. So I can't
Would you,
promise.
what about the week of the 19th? Is that better for you, Penny, or first week of August?
First week of August is probably better, but I think just go with the one that works for everybody. The 19th doesn't work. I'll be on a sailboat, so I'm really out on that one.
Well, let's go early that week of your fundraiser.
Yeah.
What if we said Monday, the 26th?
Either first thing in the morning or late in the afternoon, because I'll be traveling up to Cortez that day. So I can do it from the ferry, or I can do it after 3 o'clock.
I'm totally flexible.
After 3 o'clock is generally better for me.
I'm not done work on Mondays till, I'm not actually back on island until 7 with
Okay, so
work.
that's not good. So what times are good for you, Yvonne?
If it's got to be that Monday, if it's a Monday, then it's got to be after 7.
What about Tuesday?
Has to be after 4. I'm sorry, I'm slammed with work.
Tuesday 4 works for me.
Tuesday at 4. Tuesday the 27th?
Yep.
Okay, so that means I will get a draft to you guys. I really need a gun to my head. If I sent you a draft by Thursday the 22nd, is that enough time?
Mhm.
Okay, sold.
Hmm.
And I will get in touch with Steph to tell her what we've agreed, so she knows and she can set up. But frankly, I guess we have to have a Muni Zoom meeting. I've got an unlimited account. I think the Muni meeting was on a 40-minute. I saw it. I think it was on a limited time.
Yeah, I think she has to, because she's got to record it, because we're representatives of whatever we're representatives of.
Right.
So there has to be something official and above board and that sort of stuff.
Okay. So I've just admitted Quinn. I thought I did. Where is she? Weird. Okay. Well, in any event, I will get in touch with them and let them know what we've decided, and they'll send out. Oh, there she is. Hi, Quinn. Can you hear us? Okay. Well, Quinn, in case you can hear us, we've made some decisions about next steps, and I will just give you guys a call at the Muni office, and I'll let you know that. Or can you hear us now?
I can hear you guys. I just,
Can we give you the plan that we just made?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so what we've agreed is that the committee is going to meet again on July 27th, a Tuesday, at 4 o'clock.
July 27th.
At 4 o'clock for an hour. And that will be to review a draft or
Review criteria.
review criteria. Yeah,
Sorry, you guys.
that's okay.
I'm
And I
just
don't
hoping
know.
it's not still on YouTube.
It still
My
says
computer's
live on
black. I'm
YouTube.
just standing behind it whispering.
So, and yeah, so we're going to meet then. And so the only thing I'm wondering, Steph, is that the plan is for committee members to send me their comments on the current criteria by, oh crap, I've got to do a draft on the 22nd. So I'm going to be tough, Yvonne, and say the 19th, Monday the 19th. And I will create a draft by Thursday the 22nd. And then we will meet to discuss it by Tuesday the 27th. We're determined to move this along before it falls off everybody's tables. And I guess,
right.
so Bobby and who else is missing? Bobby and Michael, I don't know, to the extent they should know that they can send any thoughts on the existing criteria to us. You know what? I'll send an email to the committee.
That sounds perfect.
Okay. Thanks,
Great.
everybody.
Thank you all.
Sorry
Thanks
we
for
went
leading
over
this
time.
process. All
Bye.
right.
Bye.